So therefore, fuck it.
And then even understanding kind of like the difference between Bitcoin and the other like cryptos, right? So Bitcoin is considered a commodity. So there's no one person, no government, no entity that controls the money. This is the whole principle behind everything. So then when you have these other crypto coins,
what's another commodity?
Gold,
right?
Oil,
so there's
silver.
So there's no gold CEO, right? There's no silver CEO. There's no Bitcoin CEO, right?
Yeah, there's no one person who controls the supply of this commodity of silver, gold, Bitcoin, right? Now, I think these other cryptos are technologies, right? So they would be considered like securities because they're tied to companies and entities and businesses, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like comparing two different things as well, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like, all right, we're saying Bitcoin is a form of like digital gold or money. But then these other things, right? There's people who are in control of issuing these tokens and issuing the money who are in control of the money. So it kind of goes against the principles of Bitcoin. Not saying that these things like can't be useful or that they aren't useful, but they're technologies and they're more so like securities instead of a commodity like Bitcoin.
Yeah. So then another thing too is like, okay, so the thing in your life that you have that's very scarce and that should be very valuable to you is your time, right? It's your time. Now, your time is limited, right? You waste 5 hours, you never get them back. No matter how wealthy you get, you never get those 5 hours back, right? So imagine you go exchange 40 hours in a week and somebody uses their genie to press a button and give you something. It doesn't matter what it is. They just create it out of nowhere and they give it to you, right? And then you're like, all right, cool. You're walking around with this magic thing that they gave you. But then they keep pressing the button and giving it to everybody. So the value of your thing is going down, right? You're like, damn, I'm at the mercy of this person with this button, right? So you're trading your time for something they just keep clicking a button and fucking making more of, right? And if you watch The Masters and Slaves of Money, you'll understand this kind of leads to Africans getting enslaved or the Arabs in North Africa getting enslaved too, right? Because they were using a weaker form of money. So if I can press a button and buy your labor, like, hey, E, come work for me. And you're like, all right, cool. So you show up to work every single day and then I pay you in some bullshit. And then you come again, I pay you in some bullshit and you come again. And now I keep making more of the bullshit. So now you have to work even longer for me. And you're like, yo, I can't keep up. Duh, you can't keep up. I keep hitting that fucking button, right?
So it's kind of like, well, my bad to cut you off, but like in Africa, they had glass beads, right? So they thought like, all right, these beads are valuable. Like, you know, it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to make these. But then the Europeans come and they're like, all right, what do these African countries have that we can extract for them, right? So they have these natural resources or these things that are valuable.
Let's say gold, for example.
Yeah, let's say gold. So they have gold, but they have sophisticated glass making technology to where they're able to make these beads very quickly. Now, you can exchange, right, something that can be created very quickly, easily, without any work for something that's rare and valuable, right? So then you start exchanging those glass beads for gold. Then that turns into you exchanging these glass beads for people and for labor.
For labor and people and land like and fuck it, I'll sell you this person to pay off my debts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay, so if me and my brother showed up in Portugal with a magic money printer, we would own Portugal in no time. Because it would start with, hey, we need a apartment to live in. And then we'll tell the genie, like, hey, print us off some money, bro. We need to get an apartment. And then we'd be like, well, why are we paying for this one unit? We could own the whole thing. And then we'll tell the genie again, hey, print us off some money. And then we'll buy the whole apartment. Then we'll buy houses. And then we'll buy an army. And then we'll buy politicians. And then we'll have all the politicians vote us to be the king of Portugal. And then, fuck it, we'll build a bigger army. You get I'm going? This is nonstop as long as we have fake money.
It gives you the ability to control people.
Right? Okay, let's talk about so last time I was on this thing, I was talking about war, right? So imagine if me and him run some land and somebody wants to invade or we want to invade somebody, we have to go in our big ass pile of gold. So imagine we just got all these gold chips and we're like, hey, we got to pay soldiers and we got to pay the sword makers and the arrow makers in order to produce things to go fight this war. So as long as the war goes on, we have to keep reaching in our pile of gold, reaching in our pile of gold. Eventually, we're going to sit and go, bro, we're running out of gold. We got to end this fucking war.
Reason for the public. So people are kind of going to be like, all right, well, do I want to lend the government money to like fight in this war?
You'd be like, hell nah. Like,
yeah. And then I'm going to be like, yeah, like how long is this war going to last? Different things like that. But imagine they can go to somebody who can print unlimited amount of money. The war is going to last way longer as opposed to if they just went to people or if it was like fixed to something like gold or something like that.
So the ability to just print money allows you to keep this war going on forever because the soldiers are going to get tired and you say, okay, well, I'll up your pay. Right. And then the sword makers can be like, we're running out of iron to make swords. OK, cool. We'll issue more. We'll pay you more. We'll give you more so you can go buy this. So the ability to just create money out of nowhere gives you all types of leverage. This is why wars used to be a few months long. And now we be in war for 15 years because we're never running out of the resource that's funding the war. Right. So the central bankers know that. Right. And like I told you guys before, the ability to create money makes you to print money and force other people to use it is like godlike. Oh, wait, hold on. I wanted to talk about other cryptos. So one thing that I will say that like just because somebody creates a crypto token doesn't make it a scam, right? Because what would make it a scam if they forced you to use it? You're forced to use the US dollar. The reason why you don't have to join my company and learn something is because you have a free market. If you don't like Chris, you can go to the next person, right?
It's a voluntary transaction.
It's a voluntary transaction. If I'm forcing you to pay your bills in dollars, now I'm forcing you to use the dollar. So if I'm abusing the dollar, but I force you to use it, now you're in direct line to be taken advantage of. Does this make sense?
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you got to pay your taxes with US dollars, and you got to like trade and commerce with US dollars. So therefore you're forced to use it.
You're forced to use it, right? So after the banks got bailed out in 2008, then Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he is, or we're going to create something that they can't just keep making more of, because what ended up happening is all these banks were taking all these risks. And when you take the risk, if it works, you get way more wealthier, right? You and the bank, all your little banker friends, all y'all money go up. But if you're wrong, then the government's going to step in and say, I know they took a risk, but they're too large to fail. They have 40,000 employees and then this company loaned them money. So if they go under, that company goes under. So let's just pass a bill to save everybody, right? Yeah. So the risk that you take is kind of like, it's everybody's going to share the risk, right? Like, but the rewards just going to be private. Like the rewards will be privatized. If this works, me and him get rich. If this doesn't work, all y'all are going to pay for it through inflation. Does that make sense?
Inflation or taxes.
Inflation or taxes.
Yeah. And what they were doing too was they were basically giving out risky loans to people, right? So maybe not even verifying their income, not verifying their credit score, or maybe they were like loose standards, right? So I go and I'm a bank and I loan out this money to this person, right, without like verifying whether they could actually pay off like, their mortgage or whatever the case is. Then I go do this to a bunch of people. I package this up. I sell it to investors, right? So then investors buy these securities or whatever the case is. And then now if the people default on their loans, right, then the bank goes under, the investors can't get paid back. The people don't have a home anymore. Real estate prices crash.
Yeah. So this guy, Satoshi, he's like, all right, well, we need to create something that they just can't make more of, right? So one part of the Bitcoin, so there's the Bitcoin asset and then there's the Bitcoin network, right? And they're connected, right? So there will be, just because he creates a system where you can use digital money, right? And you can transfer money peer to peer. You don't need, anybody in the middle. It doesn't make it a good money, right? Because if that were the case, anybody would do it, right? Why would we use Bitcoin when we can use fuck coin, right? So it's not just the ability to like, oh, this is something different. Just because something's different doesn't mean it's better, right? But then you start tying it to the real world, right? So if we're telling you if our magic genie can press a button and make the dollar appear if somebody could do that with a coin, it's the same thing. It's just digital. So it's tied to energy, right? Because if I want to mine a Bitcoin, I have to go pay for electricity, and I have to use computing power, right? Like I have to have a miner, and the miner's going to cost me electricity. I need somewhere to put the computer. So now we're tying real world assets into this digital currency. Does that make sense? So somebody can't snap their fingers and make another Bitcoin. If you want to make a Bitcoin, you got to go mine it. And in order to mine it, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars now, or $100,000 now. All right. What happens when the internet network goes down? So if every transaction is put on a ledger, boom, 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 and then all these nodes keep track of what's going on, they validate it or whatever. So the internet goes down, boom. The internet goes down, Bitcoin is down, you can't do anything. But nor can you go to Bank of America and fucking withdraw your money. Like, you can't do anything. But everybody has a copy, because everybody thinks like, oh, the internet goes down, well, I'm just going to swipe my Visa card. No, you're fucked, bro. So anyways,
Everybody's fucked.
everybody's fucked.
Yeah.
So it's not just Bitcoin. Everybody would be fucked until it comes back up. Once it comes back up, everybody has a copy of all these ledgers validating this person did this person did this person did this. So Bitcoin can be stopped if you shut down the internet forever. If you shut down the internet forever, cool, you got it. Everybody has to be shut off the internet forever.
Yeah, or the miners just, I guess, stop deciding to run their nodes, or the people who secure the nodes stop just deciding for whatever reason. But
all right, so all right, let's see if we can find some good questions. I'm not talking to y'all about any other coins, man. Fuck all them coins. It's just a distraction, bro. They be thinking I'm joking and shit. Matter of fact, the Celsius CEO just pled guilty to fraud charges. So that's another thing, taking self-custody. So you need, when you buy Bitcoin, you can buy Bitcoin on Kraken, on Robinhood, on
Coinbase.
What else you got?
Let's see.
Wherever.
On Strike.
Yeah, Cash App, you could buy it. But that would be the equivalent of you parking your car in somebody else's garage, right? So imagine they're not paying their lease. Then they get shut down, boom, your shit is gone, right? But you can take custody of your own Bitcoin, right? You can buy something like this. Screenshot this. A Trezor. You could buy a Ledger. You can use a multi-sig. You can use Casa. You can use Unchained. You can get a cold wallet. You can get any of those things, right? So therefore your Bitcoin's not with them. So if they go under, you're good.
You know what? I think like a common misconception too is people think that because Bitcoin is $100,000 right now, that they can't afford it. It's kind of like a stock, right? If a stock price is $10,000 and you're like, oh, well, I can't afford to buy this stock. Like, no, you can buy partials of a stock. Like, you can buy partials of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. You
don't have to buy one full coin. Like,
Yeah.
You can just buy partials of it.
So with that being said, think about this. So what people will do naturally is they're going to say, well, if this thing's $100,000 and this other coin is a quarter of a penny, let me just buy a bunch of the quarter of the penny.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, just because it's a quarter of a penny or because 0.0003 cents, it doesn't make it more likely to go up, right? Just because there's a house in bumfuck nowhere, St. Louis, doesn't mean, and it's cheaper and it's 13,000. Like y'all know, I bought a house in St. Louis for 13,000. That doesn't make it more likely to go up than the house in Beverly Hills. There's outside economic factors that contribute to this.
And then another thing too is, all right, let's say there's a coin, right? And it has $100,000 market cap and somebody owns $10,000 worth of it, right? So they own 10% of that coin, as opposed to something that's $10,000. Like you have $10,000, but you own, the market cap is $1 million, right? So you got 10,000 out of $1 million compared to 10,000 out of 100,000. Now that one person that has 10,000 out of 100,000 can influence the price more if they decide to sell.
Yeah.
Right. So even like take that into consideration with Bitcoin as well too, right?
Yeah. So if I'm a company and I issue a token, right, but I keep 30% of that token for me, and then my operation slows up. You're storing your wealth in my token, not knowing I'm not making any other money from selling software or doing this or doing that. So how can I get money? Selling the token. So you're storing your money in the token, and I'm dumping the token so I can pay for my whatever I need to pay for. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's leases around the world. Maybe it's, I don't know, your payroll, whatever. So I'm basically diluting you and taking your wealth to pay for my leases, right? So that's a danger of buying tokens that are issued and held by outside or by those entities, right? So if I create the Chris Johnson token and I keep a third of them, and you buy them because you're like, nah, I fuck with Chris, he's dope, blah, blah, blah. But then when I want to go buy a Ferrari, I just dump the token on y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then also, like, somebody could have good intentions with, like, issuing their token and stuff like that. But it's like, all right, if I market this token and get everybody to buy in, but I own all this token, well, where's my incentive to actually run my company?
Yeah, you're right.
If I'm rich now,
Yeah.
I can just sell this token off, right?
If Apple issued tokens and everybody buys the Apple token, they don't have an incentive to sell more computers, or they don't have an incentive to sell more phones or sell software or sell whatever, because you're like, well, bro, it cost us money to buy the material to create the phone. We can issue the token for free, and then people buy into it because they fuck with Apple, and then we just sell it.
Yeah.
The marginal cost of production is nothing.
It's like you're cutting off the whole idea of, all right, I have to provide goods and services to get money. Well, now I can just provide a different form of money to get money back.
Exactly. So when you see people who are like, oh, we issued this token and they're holding 30% of it, and then you buy, and then they make promises and say, well, guess what we're going to do? Nigga, we're going to save the world. Like, we're top flight security of the whole parking lot, right? And then you're like, bro, they're top flight, bro, they're top flight. And then you go buy in, and then they dump on you, and you're like, no, bro, you don't understand because they're top flight. Like, who gives a fuck, bro?
Yeah.
I'm not putting my children's wealth into these random niggas' hands. All right? Let's see what else they got. This is also why you have people who like cheer for tokens, because they need other people to buy in. Tell me if you see something good. Actually, I'm gonna use bad. Let me talk to them.
Buying MST cars.
I'm buying MicroStrategy calls tomorrow. So what I was saying in my group chat today is like, be careful with MicroStrategy calls, because you know when they use their at the money offering, what they're going to do is they're going to issue a bunch of shares, right? So the price of the shares are going to fall, right? So if you're buying calls and you're holding them a long time, you would know that eventually the stock is going to take a big dip, because they're going to issue a bunch of shares. They're going to sell off a bunch of shares into the market. When they sell off those shares, it's the same thing that we were telling you about crypto tokens. If a large holder of these dumps onto the market, the price goes down. Same thing with the stock market. If they issue more shares, the price is going to go down, right? So your calls are going to get crushed. So if you're going to do it, you buy it when they're spamming that at the money. When they're selling off these shares into the market, that's when you're going to buy your calls. Today, this morning or yesterday would have been the time to buy your calls, right? Now, because you know that they're going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and you see the future of MicroStrategy being worth, a lot of money because they're buying Bitcoin at a crazy rate. They have like 400,000 Bitcoin. You want to buy in when everyone is scared, right? So they're going to issue their shares. The price is going to fall, and then you'll buy in. That's why that's specifically why I posted yesterday that I bought MicroStrategy.
You see, I think they have over 400,000 Bitcoin now, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So if they have $400,000 Bitcoin, if they have 400,000 Bitcoin, and the price of Bitcoin goes from 90K to 100K, just think they made $10,000 off of each of the Bitcoin. So the value of their holdings go up, and the value of their stock will follow.
Yeah, and then if the value of their stock goes up as well too, what they're going to do is they're going to issue more shares, and then what they're going to do is they're going to take that money from the shares to buy more Bitcoin. Right. So it's just kind of like a whole cycle.
Exactly. So like he said, so the value of MicroStrategy is going to go up tomorrow, right? Because Bitcoin's up. So the value is going to go up. Now, if the value is up, this would be the perfect time if I'm Michael Saylor, if I'm the CEO, or if I'm the board of directors, to say, let's sell off some of these shares into the market so we can raise more money and buy more Bitcoin. You get what I'm saying? So don't get too heavy on the cause. I do believe MicroStrategy in the long run is like a very good, a very, 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 very good, investment. But just know if you're going to skip over holding shares and buy calls, they could get whacked.
Yeah. And yeah, it's super volatile what they're doing. Also them issuing the convertible bonds as well too, right?
So explain that.
What they're doing basically is they're giving people, they're going to different like institutions and stuff like that, and they're saying, all right, well, we need money, right? So then they issue bonds. What happened?
Fuck nigga. You gotta block a fuck nigga. But go ahead.
Who was that?
Nigga kept yapping. Go ahead. Too much yap for me.
Oh
nigga.
my God. All right. What was he talking about?
Way too much yap.
Oh,
for
the
me.
convertible bonds, right?
Go ahead,
So they're trying to raise money. So they go into the market and they issue this debt, right? So now you have insurance companies, just different financial institutions that are willing to loan MicroStrategies the money, right? So what they do is they take that money and then they go buy more Bitcoin. And they can give it to them at low interest rates because these bonds are convertible, right? Meaning they can be converted into shares. So kind of think of it as an option, right? An option has a strike price and it gives you the right to buy a certain amount of shares at a certain price, right? So that's why somebody would loan MicroStrategy a bunch of money at 0% interest or close to 0% interest because they're like, I expect their stock price to go up. Therefore, I can convert this bond into an actual stock.
Yep. So the bond market is huge. The bond market is bigger than the stock market, right? So not everybody in the bond market can buy convertible bonds, but there's a large pool of money of people who cannot buy stocks. So if you're a fund, right, like you're a fixed income fund or you're like, a bond, whatever, like you buy bonds, you can't go buy Bitcoin itself, right? Because the money is put in your fund for the specific purpose of buying bonds. So you can't go buy Bitcoin because it's not a bond. That's a commodity. Nor can you go buy equity, which is a stock, right? So you can't buy Bitcoin itself and you can't buy MicroStrategy's stock. But what you can do is buy the bonds they're offering.
Yeah. And then another thing, somebody mentioned it too as well too, is the convertible bond buyers, they can short MicroStrategy, right? So they can make money off the volatility. So you know how MicroStrategy is like, it may go super high one day and then it may fall by a lot. So what they do is they can short MicroStrategy when it's hot. And what shorting is you're basically selling shares, right? So if I sell shares at $500, right, but then MicroStrategy falls to $400, then I buy back in, I made $100 off that spread, right? Shorting, the difference between shorting and then somebody buying shares and then selling out of them is with shorting, what you're doing is you're borrowing the shares from somebody to sell them, but then you're buying back in at a lower price and you make the profit off of that spread, right?
You're so smart, bro. This nigga smart. But
so
yes,
they like that volatility, right? Because they can make money off of that. So that's another reason why, right? 0% interest,
this
right?
is my quant. Yeah, he says this Chris Johnson 2.0. Yeah, this my quant. This my quant right here. Yeah, but like he was saying, so the people who are buying the bonds from MicroStrategy, they can also then turn and short the stock, right? So then when MicroStrategy swings one way or the other, if it swings up, they make money because they can convert the bonds into equity, into shares. Or if it goes down, they make money or they hedge themselves on.
They're trying to hedge themselves by like shorting the stock as well too. Yeah.
Hey, y'all gotta go follow my brother, but bro don't really be trying to be cool on the internet. Let me put his
Here you go.
Where's your other brother? He's at the Houston house. We're in Vegas right now. What's your Instagram?
1_ E, then 2_
This nigga
Johnson. I think it's either.
Kim, put E Instagram in here.
Wait, let me check.
Kim, put E Instagram in here. But yeah, all right. Another thing too, man. Like what I was gonna tell y'all is everything is going to fall against Bitcoin, right? So you're in one system, right? We'll just call this traditional system. You're in this traditional system, and then over here you have like the Bitcoin standard, right? everything is gonna fall.
Oh yeah, it's 2 underscores first.
This nigga was about to have me send some. Hold on, let me pin this real quick. Good looking, Kim. And the one I pinned right here, the Dream Smile, that's my sister. There's 7 of us if y'all don't know that. All right, so what happens is when you're in a traditional system, you look at your house like a part of your wealth, right? Because you buy the house, it goes up, you know, the equity is yours, but you got to pay interest on your loan. You got to pay property taxes, all that good stuff, right? So that's how I used to look at it, right? I used to look at it like, all right, like, you know, your house, you buy it as a savings account, but then you realize like Bitcoin is the best savings account. So one of my guys, Chris, he told me when I was buying this house, he told me, bro, instead of cashing out on this house or even buying this house at all, buy the Bitcoin, borrow against the Bitcoin, buy the house, right? So I bought this house for $530,000 in cash, right? So at the time, Bitcoin was like 9,000 some change, right? So that would be about 53 Bitcoin, right? 53 Bitcoin times $100,000 is $5 million. I would have been able to buy 6 of these houses versus looking at it like, nah, I just need a place to store some of that money. You get what I'm saying? I would have put it in Bitcoin as times 6. But you don't see it that way. You don't see it that way. You're like, nah, I need a house because it's a part of the American dream and blah, 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 blah. But the American dream is fucked. And the new American dream is freedom, right? And this is helping you get your freedom. So 53 Bitcoin. So when I bought this house, it cost 53 Bitcoin, right? But now this house costs 8 Bitcoin, 8.5 Bitcoin. So if you're looking at it from a perspective of the dollar, the house is going up in value, right? It's going up. It was 530, now it's 800. So you're looking at it. Remember earlier we were talking about the dollar and the peso. You're looking at it saying, oh, it's going up because it's going up in dollars. Remember I told you I don't denominate things in dollars. Do it in Bitcoin. So if you're counting your pockets and you go, how much is my house worth is growing in value. It was 530, now it's 800. Now, if you calculate it in Bitcoin, it was 53 Bitcoin, now it's 8.5 Bitcoin. So on the Bitcoin standard, this house got cheaper. And the dollar standard, it got more expensive, right? Everything is falling against Bitcoin. Did that make sense to y'all? That makes sense.
And then another thing too is like, well, think about the people who own their house outright, but they're on a fixed income. Yeah. But now, right, you have inflation. So you can own your house outright, but you still have to pay property taxes. Yep. And you still have to pay insurance as well too, right?
I was going to say, that kind of gives them an incentive to keep propping your house up. Because if you buy a house for $500,000 and now it's worth $1 million, right? And let's say you're a fixed income and you're like, oh, I'm retired or whatever the case is, or you're not getting a crazy pay raise. Yeah. Now the government comes and reassesses the value of your property. And they go, yeah, I know you bought that house for $500,000. It's worth $1 million now. So now your taxes are going to move from $7,000 a year to $15,000 a year. Yeah. Right? Or let's say it moves from $12,000 a year to $24,000 a year. They reassess the value of your property up. So you were paying $1,000 a month in taxes. Now you're paying $2,000 a month in taxes. Right? So it's in the system's best interest to say, hey, the value of your property is going up, because then they can get more tax money out of you. Now, when the government comes and says, hey, the value of your property went up, so you got to pay more taxes. Now the insurance company comes, like you just said, the insurance company and says, hey, we were insuring $500,000. So if you're insuring a $500,000 house and the roof messes up or whatever, we can estimate what the cost is going to be. But now this is a $1 million house now. Yeah. So now we're going to charge you even more to insure your house. So you're sitting there like, yeah, my house is going up. My house is going up. Now your insurance went up. Your property taxes went up. Right? So now you're paying more of a percentage of your income. You're paying more. Yeah. So even though the value of your house went up, you're getting poorer. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah. And then let's say you have a pension and now that's a fixed income, like way of getting money. So your pension stays the same, but then all your living expenses go up. Yep. So pretty much you might be forced to work again.
Yeah. So sometimes when you see people who are like older and they're at Walmart, like some of these people are on fixed income and then the economy keeps growing. So now they have to, hey, this fixed income ain't enough because they keep reassessing the value of my house. So now I can't just buy a house, You buy a house 30 years ago, you pay it off, you retire, and you think you're selling off into the sunset, right? But the sunset or the fucking boogeyman is chasing you, and it's called inflation.
Yeah, and nobody escapes inflation. Like whether you're renting or you're owning as well too. Like if you're renting, your rent's gonna go up. But then also if you own a house, your property taxes are gonna go up. Your insurance is gonna go up as well too. So it's kind of like something that's very hard to escape.
Yeah.
Or nobody really escapes it.
Oh, so, and it's important to be realistic about what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's really important. Like, I seen some girl how went viral the other day on Twitter. She said that, oh, I'm going to be a renter forever because I had a problem with my refrigerator. And then the next day, the owner brought another refrigerator, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so boom. Let's say his mortgage is $1,250, right? Mortgage, property taxes, insurance is $1,250. He's charging you $2,500, right? Times 12 months, subtract 30-40% of that, right, from his like cost, and he's probably like profiting $10,000 a year. You have a refrigerator issue, he brings you a $1,200 refrigerator, right? Bro's still up. That fridge was not free.
Yeah.
The concept of free kicks people's ass. There's nothing free. So this isn't a ownership versus renting type of thing. This is just realize what you're paying for. If you pay for Amazon Prime every year, what was the analogy you gave me?
About
shipping or some about free shipping.
Oh yeah, it's basically like, yeah, you're paying for Amazon Prime and you're like, oh well, I get free shipping. Well, you kind of just pay for free shipping with the subscription. But I would say about that too, possibly what people can say is like, you're kind of like de-risking yourself a little bit, right? So you could say like, I don't know, like if I was a homeowner and something happened, I wouldn't have $10,000 to spend. Therefore, maybe if I rent, like I know that the homeowner is their mortgage or my rent is going to be more than their mortgage, but I know my fixed rental cost. I know it's not going to go above this. Yeah. So it's kind of like reassessing your risk kind of in a sense too, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're a homeowner, you're like, all right, well, I got to come out of pocket, like, all this money to repair this. But if I'm a renter, maybe I'll pay more just to have that safety net or whatever the case is.
Yeah, he's right. So the thing is, my whole point was just to start second guessing when you say free, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? What does free mean? Right? So if the normal cost of a flight to fly from right here in Vegas to Houston is $300, but I paid $1,000 because I want to fly first class, and they bring me some champagne, and then I go, bro, they got free champagne. Be for real.
Yeah.
Be for real.
Yeah, free is like, there's really nothing that's free.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then also kind of seeing things as like certain goods as utilities, like a house, like, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like there's some value you get from the house that has no monetary like value to it. It's just the utility, right? Being able to use a house, the security of a house, like, the comfort of a home and different things like that.
Yeah. So
instead of seeing it as, oh, this is my investment, like, this is going to be a utility for me, right? Something that provides value that's not monetary.
Yeah. It's like looking at it like a pair of shoes, right? So look, when I buy a pair of shoes, I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be fly, but I don't track how much the shoes are worth. I buy them because I need protection for my feet. And then, of course, I want them to look cool, right? So I don't go, I spent $1,000 on these shoes and I wore them a few times and now they're worth X amount, right? That's how I used to look at like a house. I bought this house for X amount. Now it's worth X amount. I'm up. My net worth is up. Now I look at it like a pair of shoes. I need somewhere to live that's safe, that's comfortable, good schools around. Nobody gonna try to rob me in my neighborhood. I get this house. Whether I rent it or own it, I just need somewhere to stay, right? I look at it like a pair of shoes. Like, boom, it serves its purpose. My wealth, I'm going to put it in my savings account, right? Which is Bitcoin, right? So I start calculating my properties and my net worth, all that. I just stop tracking my net worth because if I'm not getting richer in Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. If I have X amount of Bitcoin, I don't have X amount plus one the next month, I'm getting poorer. That's the way I see it. But I start, like he said, you look at things further, utility value, right? Because the rest of your wealth is going to grow in Bitcoin.
And then also just the concept of like liquidity for a house, right? Because you're like, all right, well, on paper, I'm up X amount of percent or whatever the case is. But if I want to access this wealth from my house, I have to sell it. I have to take out a loan against it, different things like that, right? So that's why it can look like, oh, you know, people have money like on paper or whatever, or according to their house, but
I can pull equity if I need to. Like, can you? But or at what cost?
yeah, at what cost is it, right?
Yeah.
So the concept of like liquidity too when it comes to assets.
Yeah. But yeah, let's see. Y'all got any more questions?
What about like how low interest rates environments like cause people to search for like risk, like, you know, to
Hold
get a
on.
return on their money?
Chris, are you still adding at this point? Somebody in the Well Squad, tell them what I put on the whiteboard today. How does buying Bitcoin help a person that ain't got much money? All right, so look, whether you're rich or poor, the concept of inflation is affecting you. Whether you're rich or poor, inflation is affecting you, right? So your cost of living goes up, your rent goes up, your cost to renew your registration on your car goes up, right? So you need something to not only offset that, but to actually beat it, right? So think about this. What did we calculate from September? It was like a 7x.
Oh yeah, September of 2023.
All right, so when I started like going crazy, like September 2023, like your money is 7 times more valuable than it was.
It's either September or November.
One of those two, right? So imagine if you started saving in Bitcoin 2 years ago, and now the value of your money is 4 times or 5 times more valuable than what it used to be. Of course that helps a poor person. Of course that helps somebody that doesn't have money, because the opposite of that is you keep your money in cash and then the cost of living raises and eats the value of your cash away, right? So rich people, wealthy people need a place to store their money. Poor people need a place to create some money. Does it make sense? So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you had $1,000, now your $1,000's worth $7. Doesn't that make your life easier? All right, hold on. All right, what was you gonna say about
So just the concept of like low interest rates, how, right?
Oh wait, hold on. Nah, this morning when I was setting the Wealth Squad this morning, I bought it 95,000 this morning. I bought MicroStrategy this morning, posted in the Wealth Squad. I bought Bitcoin 95,000 this morning. I'm still buying at these levels because I think we're going much higher. Out of everything I just said to y'all could probably tell, I think we're going to $10 million like eventually, right? So think about this. At this point, 5 million and 2,000 are the same distance away. So if you remember a $2,000 Bitcoin, it's the same distance as a $5 million Bitcoin. So we're at 100,000, a 5 million Bitcoin is a 50x, right? And if you're at 2,000, a $100,000 Bitcoin is a 50x. So we're right here, 5 million is right here, 2,000 is right here. They're the same distance away. We're going to 10 though, but go ahead.
What were you talking about?
You was talking about how cheap interest rates encourages people to gamble.
So what happens is, right, if the Federal Reserve lowers their federal funds rate, and then in turn all the interest rates gets lower, right? So it becomes cheaper to buy a house. It becomes cheaper to get a car. It becomes cheaper to just borrow money. Credit cards become cheaper, right? People know that inflation is going to result from that, right? So what do? Instead of putting your money in a government bond, because you're like, all right, this is not a risky asset. And typically, let's just say I can get 4% on it, right? So I store my money in this bond, I get 4%, and I'm good. It's not risky. But if interest rates become so low, you have to compare the rate of return with inflation. So if I'm getting 2% on a government bond, but inflation is 4 or 5%, then I'm losing 3% of my money, right? Mm-hmm. So what does this cause me to do? It causes me to seek out investments that are going to be above the rate of inflation. So think of interest rates as measuring the risk of an investment. So the higher return you can get, or the higher interest rate you can get for something, the more risky it's going to be. But now you're trying to fight against inflation. So now you have to go look for these risky investments, right, to try to beat the rate of inflation. So it causes people to speculate in different things, right? Or even certain companies, right? Certain companies, what they do is they take out all these, like all this debt, right? And they may be growth companies, right? So they have a lot of debt, but they might be growing their sales super fast, right? So now you're like, I'm going to invest in this company because they can grow fast and they have cheaper access to capital.
Yep.
But if interest rates go up, that company now has a larger interest to pay, right?
Think of a company like Chegg.
Yeah.
Think of a company like Chegg, but go ahead.
So now, right, if I invested in this company because I'm trying to beat inflation and I know they can grow fast or their stock can grow fast, but they have a lot of debt, right? They have interest payments on that debt and it may not even be fixed, right? So if interest rates gets raised and they still have those interest payments, they go up, right? Now, before when interest rates were lower, what could they do? They could hire more people. They could invest more capital into their business. They could expand. But if interest rates go up, now the cost of servicing that debt goes up as well, too. They have to fire people, right? They have to think of ways, right, to combat higher interest rates.
Yep.
So low interest rates cause people to speculate on risky investments. So you have to consider those type of things in like low interest rate environments and then different environments where the interest rates are raised. Because think about all those growth companies in 2020 and 2021, how they were going crazy.
Even something like Square.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, something like Square, right? But now think about it. The stock market is back to all-time highs, but a lot of that wealth is concentrated in those big companies like Nvidia, Apple, Google.
It's like 7 companies are concentrated with majority of the wealth in the S&P 500.
So all the money basically flowed from all these companies and they concentrated in these bigger companies, right?
Because when the environment gets risky, you're going to say, I'm taking my money out of Chegg and I'm putting it into Apple. Or I'm taking my money out of Chegg and I'm putting it into the S&P 500. I'm taking my money out of Square, I'm putting it in the S&P 500, right? You're going to look for the safer money, right? You're going to look for the safer play.
Yeah.
Because the risk that you take to get the return matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So if somebody offers you $10,000 to hit a 3-pointer, but if you miss, your mom dies, and then imagine somebody's running around like, look, bro, I got 10 grand because they made it on the first try. And you're like, nigga, you almost offed your mom, bro. Yeah. Right? So when people run around talking about returns and they don't acknowledge the risk, then you're like, you're kind of an idiot. But it's like a financial maturity thing. You know what I'm saying? What did it take for you to create that return? So even if the return could be higher than something safer or slower, the risk could be different. So if somebody got a 15% return in the S&P 500 and somebody else got a 50% return in a crypto token, and you go, well, see, look, crypto's smoking the stock market. And you're like, but that crypto token can go to zero overnight.
Yeah, it's way riskier.
It's way risky. You have to consider the returns.
Risk and return are always correlated. And then another concept too is like, all right, well, now the money could also flow from the stock market to the bond market when interest rates rise. Because at first, you have to compete against inflation and making sure, right? Inflation versus what happened?
Somebody said when I talk about the 3-pointer, some niggas said some niggas would do that for 5K. Hey, I know some niggas that do that for 500.
Facts.
But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, right. So now, right, as interest rates rise, now you can go, instead of investing my money in this company or in the stock market, I can go buy a government bond.
Yep.
Because the rate of return of the government bond is going to be higher than inflation.
Yeah.
Because raising interest rates is theoretically supposed to cause inflation to come down. But there's two different sides to that, right? So that's from the monetary policy, right? But then you have the fiscal policy, which is U.S. government, and they can keep issuing debt even when interest rates are high, as long as there's people willing to buy that debt.
Yeah.
And they could go to the Federal Reserve, right, and be like, all right, even though interest rates are higher, we'll just pay a higher interest payment, right, and issue these bonds as well, too.
Or think about how the Fed could freeze the whole housing market, right? So think about how everybody's strategy, who was the Burr or the flip this or flip that, yada, 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 and then the Fed increases the interest rates. Now people aren't taking out loans to buy houses. So then the whole housing market kind of freezes. And you're like, bro, when you're getting easy money, like 2021, everybody was rich, right? You're getting all this easy money. You don't ever consider like, bro, somebody can press a few buttons and that'll be the end of that.
Yeah, facts.
Rakita, what up?
I'm trying to see. But bonds are down over the last 5 years. So how is that the case with inflation up? All right. So with bonds, right? Bonds are down because interest rates were rising, right? So the value of the bond goes down, the interest rate rises, right? So we can still have inflation with higher interest rates.
Hey, we're not. Hold on. We're not cashing out on our. We're not cashing out on our,
Yeah.
Bitcoin. So we're not going to talk to you about paying taxes because what if you aren't paying attention? I'm trying to lead you to buy Bitcoin and not sell it, right? So the exit strategies. That's on you to find, right? When you're going to sell, how often you're going to sell. You want to sell to go buy a new Mercedes? That's on you, bro. Like you figure it out. I'm not telling nobody to sell. Go ahead.
Y'all, wait, what did somebody say? Y'all not doing what?
I don't know, but niggas want that Mercedes. It didn't remind me of niggas in South Central. Everybody sold their grandma house to go buy a Mercedes. But go ahead.
All right, so what was I saying about the bonds? Oh, yeah. All right. So the price of the bond and the interest rate are inversely correlated, right? So as interest rates go up, the value of the bonds go down, right? But like I was saying, in a low interest rate environment, you're not going to put your money into bonds because the bond is not going to return anything versus inflation. But as those interest rates continue to rise and rise, you're like, well, why would I invest in this risky company when I can just go loan the government money and they can pay me a fixed interest rate?
Yeah.
Now, the reason why the Fed would raise, right, those interest rates, and then in turn the government will raise the interest rates on the Treasury is because they're trying to slow down the economy. But, right, that's monetary policy. Now you have a whole nother policy, which is fiscal policy, which is government spending, taxes, tariffs, things like that. Those two things could contradict each other. So if the Fed's trying to slow down the economy by raising the interest rates, they're trying to stop people from borrowing, they're trying to stop people from spending, they're trying to encourage people to save, but the government can come around and they can decide to still spend money. Therefore, inflation could still be happening in the system, even with higher interest rates. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. If you buy your crypto and you sell it within 1 year, you got one tax rate, short-term capital gains, right? If you sell it after 1 year, you have long-term capital gains. So the capital gains rate is based on your income level. Okay. Unchained Capital will let you borrow against your Bitcoin if you want to. I don't suggest that, but cool.
But yes, that goes to his point that Bitcoin would theoretically just keep going up and up and up, right? Because it's like, all right, even if interest rates are high and we're trying to slow down the effect of money printing and stuff like that, the government can come and they could still borrow all this money, right? Because we could be in a recession if interest rates are high. So then the government comes in, they're like, well, we need to spend more money to stimulate the economy. Therefore, what they have to do, increase the money supply, devalue the dollar.
And that money makes its way somewhere.
And
it's going to make its way because if you get a hold of the money, you're going to say, well, shit, I don't want to put my money somewhere where they can just click the genie and then the genie prints more money. And then you're going to say, all right, what are my options? Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Type shit.
And then just how we have to pay interest on all that money that we borrow as well, too.
Oh, look, here's a good question. Can the government or some type of higher up stop or ban Bitcoin? So you want to know something dope? Putin, a literal dictator, today was talking about Bitcoin, right? And you know what Putin said about Bitcoin? He was like, yeah, nobody can ban Bitcoin, right? Bro, the only way that anybody would be able to ban Bitcoin is if every government and every corporation in the entire world shut down the internet permanently. So they all have to be on cahoots to do that, right? Every government, every corporation in the entire world shuts down the internet at the same time and keeps it offline forever. Then yeah, you can stop Bitcoin, right? You'll stop it until it comes back up. All right. So, so Putin was talking about Bitcoin today. Putin and Jerome Powell are both talking about Bitcoin today. I actually think that's probably why we crossed 100,000 because I'm sure everybody in Russia was probably like, oh shit, we need to buy some. But that's what he was saying today. He was like, oh, who can stop Bitcoin? Nobody can stop Bitcoin because I don't know if you guys know, but Russia had a bunch of their assets seized by America. right? So if they're holding money for Russia, or if Russia buys a bunch of the US Treasury bonds or buys a bunch of any assets, there were Russian billionaires getting their boats seized, right? So if Russia is creating all this wealth and then putting it in buying bonds or doing whatever, and then America's like, oh, well, you guys invaded Ukraine, so we're taking your money. And then they lose billions of dollars because they just got their assets seized. The next time they think about putting their money in assets, they're going to want to know that nobody or none of their would-be ops would stop this shit. That makes sense?
Yep, their gold in New York was seized when they tried to pop off on you.
Yeah, exactly. So when they invaded Ukraine, we took their gold. So again, imagine if you're storing your car in somebody else's garage and then you do a bad thing and then they're like, give me your fucking car. And you're like, well, my wife needs the car to drive the kids around. You're like, oh, well, give me your car. Somebody can seize something or take something from you. It's not yours. That's the way I look at everything now. If somebody can take something from me, it's not mine. You can take my life, you can't take my Bitcoin. That's the crazy part. So in that sense, like, my Bitcoin is more of mine than my life is, because somebody can snatch it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, think about it. If you don't pay taxes on your house, they'll take it. You driving a car and it's not registered and you have no insurance, they'll take it. Is it really yours? If you have to register your car every year, like, you're paying a subscription to own your own car. Right? Oh, you guys seen all that stuff coming out about all these banks debanking people? I told y'all that I got kicked out of Navy Federal for, I'll call Navy Federal and I'll be like, yeah, I need to send money to, I think I was wiring money to Coinbase at the time. And I kept doing this every single day. I was like, you have to call them to wire the money. So I'm sending like a lot of money every day. And eventually one of the ladies go, oh, where's the money coming from? Blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I own a company. You know, I own these companies. They're like, oh, what are your companies? I'm telling all the companies. And then when I get to explaining the Wealth Squad, I'm like, yes, an educational platform. And then they're like, what do you educate people about? Like, all friendly and shit. They're like, oh, what do you educate people about? I'm like, you know, about stocks, about real estate, about building online businesses, about Bitcoin. She said, you have a Bitcoin company? Kick me out the bank right there. Boom. But think about this. Nobody can stop me from using Bitcoin. You can stop me from going to your bank, but you can't stop me from using Bitcoin. Right? So if you did something bad, like not get a vaccine, and they don't want you to use the fucking the banking system or use this corporation or kick you off YouTube or whatever the case is, like, bro, we don't realize that we don't even transact anymore like person to person. That's what cash is for. We always go through a corporation to do something, right? So if I Cash App you money and then you send your money from Cash App to Bank of America, like, these are all corporations when I could have just handed you money directly. So if Cash App / Square or Bank of America don't want me to interact with you, they'll stop it. And you're like, nigga, who are y'all to tell me I can't give money to my brother?
Yeah.
That's the whole kind of concept of Bitcoin. It's like, it's peer to peer. He's my peer. I'll give him some money.
Can all the Bitcoins be mined? Wait, what?
What did it say?
Can all the Bitcoins be mined or no, because the formula?
Yeah, all the Bitcoins will be mined like in 100 years. So there's there's 21 million that will ever be created. 19 point something million are already in circulation. So every 4 years, how many Bitcoin are mined every day falls in half. So think about this, all right? You need buying pressure and selling pressure to make the market go either up or down. So the miners, they're spending all this money and all this electricity to mine the Bitcoin, right? So boom, they're mining the Bitcoin. And then when they get the Bitcoin, they need to pay for their whole operation. So what do? They sell the Bitcoin, right? So every day, naturally, they're sellers of Bitcoin because the miners got to pay for their whatever, their mining rigs, their electricity, their rent, all that stuff. So people are mining Bitcoin, selling it, mining it, selling it, right? So there's naturally selling pressure every single day. But then there's people like me, or there's people like BlackRock, or like E, or like you, or like funds or whatever that are buying Bitcoin every day. So if there's more buying pressure than selling pressure, Bitcoin goes up. If there's more selling pressure than buying pressure, Bitcoin goes down. But we know we have a consistent seller in the market every day, which are the miners, right? Now, if how many Bitcoin that are able to be mined every day falls in half, we naturally have half the amount of sellers. So imagine as Bitcoin gets more and more popular and there's half the people selling, what happens to the price? It goes boom, right? Because now we got a bunch of buyers and we got half the sellers. Every 4 years this happens. This number of sellers fall in half. Does that make sense?
I think naturally it'll become, the price will just like become more stable too
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, man, think about, I was reading on Reddit, this dude sold his house. No, he sold his Bitcoin to buy a house. He sold 2,000 Bitcoin to buy a house. Then 3 years later, he realized it was a mistake. So then he sold his house to buy Bitcoin, but I think he only got, or maybe he sold, no, 700 Bitcoin to buy a house. And then when he sold out of the house, he only got like, I don't know, 100 and something Bitcoin because Bitcoin had appreciated that much. So he gave up a shitload of Bitcoin because the price had appreciated so much. But, so what I was going to say while I was saying that is because if you're thinking about taking profits or exiting out now, let's say you exit out, you buy something, right? And then Bitcoin 10x's. So when we're at $1 million, so let's say you exit out, you go buy a Corvette, $100,000, right? You had one Bitcoin, you sold it, you bought a Corvette. Now Bitcoin goes to $1 million in 5 years. That Corvette cost you $1 million. It didn't cost you $100,000. So you're driving around in a car that's 5 years old that you bought for $100K. Now it's worth $47K, $37K, but you paid $1 million for it, right? Remember I was saying about the old system and the new system. The new system, the Bitcoin standard will show you like, bro, everything that you're buying, you have to look at it like a pair of shoes.
I think the thing that people need to understand, which it seems like people keep asking about, is they're trying to base what they're going to do, like with the Bitcoin they buy based off of what you do. And you have to like kind of consider your own risk profile, and then also consider like your own financial like standing as well too. So he's obviously like extremely wealthy. So it may be different. Like he may have a different plan. He might have a different plan.
You know, my mom listening,
Yeah.
nigga, what money?
Than what you want to do. Like, you know, so that's why he's not telling you, oh, like you need to sell specifically at this point.
We're in different brackets.
Yeah, different brackets, right? Like, you know, if you have a cash flowing business and stuff like that, then you may not need that money, right? But you personally might have a different type of like, you know, financial profile or whatever the case is. So it may make sense for you to sell at a certain point.
Yeah,
like,
do what you gotta
stop
do.
basing stuff like off of like what he's saying because it's specific to his like situation, right?
Situations will arise. GP, what up? But you gotta be smart about it. Celebrations with the guys I sacrifice. All right, hold on. Let me go use the bathroom. You can talk to them. Hey, Gerald, get on this. I'll go live with you after I use the bathroom. Ugh, you could not live without
That's
it.
crazy because I gotta use the bathroom too. What's good, y'all? He about to go to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, keep talking about them doing what's best for them.
Yeah, so just consider what's best for you, right? Obviously, Chris, like what he's gonna do with his Bitcoin or what he plans, like if he just plans to hold them or if he plans to sell some, that's specific to him, right? You might have like a house you want to buy or something you want to do, like after you invest in Bitcoin or whatever the case is. So it's specific to you. That's why you shouldn't base off of like when to sell based off of what he's saying, right? You have to kind of consider yourself.
I might never sell. I might only sell if I go to State Warriors.
Stupid. What was the name of the place you guys said to store the Bitcoin after you have it? There's this treasure wallet right here. This basically takes it off the exchange and then it puts it into cold storage. So you can get one of these wallets right here. Man, these questions be moving hella fast.
Celebrate.
What's your strategy on buying more Bitcoin? When do you buy more? I just try to buy some every time I get paid. Like Like when I get paid, oh, you can sit back right here.
No, I'm good. Hey, I'm about to get y'all a concert. All right, so look, wait, hold on. I'm gonna tell you something that, like, so look, so yo, Bitcoin is not actually on Coinbase, or it's not actually in a ledger either, right? So your Bitcoin's just sitting in cyberspace, but your Treasure wallet gives you the secret password
To
to access your Bitcoin, right? So if you don't have that secret password to access your Bitcoin, it's not your Bitcoin because that's a secret only you know. You got what I'm saying? Glasses plug. Hey, plug us, E.
Hey, 17-watches.com.
This is my company. We make these down, or our company. We make these. And they say right here, time is the only luxury. But this hourglass ain't on it. So it just say time is the only luxury. See if you can get that. Boom. Hey, hit our website. But yeah. So anyway, so yo, oh yeah, so for y'all who don't know, man, this is the man behind all the magic. So we co-own the watch company together, and but he's like the creative genius, and he's my quant, like I say. So bro, just tell me what to do, and I do it. All right, you guys don't use MetaMask anymore. MetaMask is for crypto. So I'm a Bitcoin only guy, so I don't even deal with crypto no more.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
I had bought an NFT on there like a minute ago. Remember, we had bought that one NFT that was about like the humans of the metaverse
Oh,
or something.
yeah.
And for some reason, I just logged in. I was like, hey,
How much was that worth?
ain't worth shit.
Cooks. Let's talk to Gerald. Cook. Let me see. I'm trying to add them in there.
Except, oh, there it goes.
Yo,
What's up, man?
what's up? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. You?
Man, everything is good my way.
Yeah, man. Looking a little orangey,
Hey, the orange pill done infected everybody.
huh? Yeah, it has, man.
Hey,
Beautiful thing.
you know, I told my last live, I'm like, you're the only person I'm gonna vouch for. You're the only person I'm gonna vouch because when everybody and their mom was scared as shit, it was only me and you.
Man, I remember that day. I want to say it was the day before Christmas or Christmas Eve or some
Oh
shit.
yeah, yeah, on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2022. Yep, I texted you on that day too.
You texted me, and we were both. I was like, yeah, it's a stage one, bro. You said, man, I'm fixing to go
Yep,
big. I
yep.
remember you saying that. I go, well, I'm going in. I don't know if I'm going that big, but yeah,
Man,
you were like,
I don't see it no other way. I
yeah,
don't see it no other way. But yeah, like I remember it was falling because imagine it fell from like 60 something thousand and people are getting scared. And I'm like,
mm-hmm.
man, like I watched the run up and the fall in 2018, right? So 2017 was my first buy, and I think it was like 7 grand at the time, and it ran up to 20,000 and then fell. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, see, it was a scam, like I'm glad that I got
Yeah,
out of that. I
yeah.
remember thinking that, and it kind of makes you feel better about yourself because you're like, damn, I'm missing the boat. I'm missing the boat. And then when it crashes, you're like, see, yeah, I was right. And then when it recovered again, you're like, I'm a dumbass.
Man, I was telling man, but we know this. It ain't. It's gonna crash again,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of
right?
course.
We know
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and
It's just gonna
you
crash
know,
higher every time.
it's just yeah. And you got lower lows or higher lows and
Hmm.
higher highs, man, and yeah, it's gonna catch it. Now you've gone, man. You've orange peeled. You're like Michael Saylor with Bitcoin or nothing.
You know what it was? It's when I start looking at the dollar as a measuring stick versus Bitcoin as a
Right.
measuring stick, and then you kind of realize like, okay, everything needs to be measured in something they can't manipulate, And once I seen it like that, then I'm like, oh man, I'm all in at this point. I can't see it no other way. Because when someone's like, what do you think about this stock? And I just go plug it like SoFi over Bitcoin. I'm like, not growing. Click the next one, not growing, not growing, not growing.
Right.
And,
Right.
and,
No,
and
and I get it. You text me that today about measuring everything in Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah. And but like I was saying this on Twitter today that like the first post I made, I'm like, Bitcoin only, everything else is a distraction, right? And then I made another post saying, I know you can make money in the stock market. I know you can
Mm,
make money with crypto. I know you can make money with meme coins. The problem is you're not going to put in the time. You know what I mean? You're not going to put in the time, and I know you're not going to put in the time. I have a trading community. I know how many people quit when the market gets hard. You
oh,
know, I know how many people get scared and panic sell, buy the top and sell the bottom. I know it. So to
right.
make your own life easier, buy Bitcoin and stop looking at the market.
Yeah, yeah, you can't even argue with that. And I would meet people here. I mean, all this last year, it seems like I meet people. They're really not in the banking system. They're out there in the streets or
Yeah,
whatever. And I'm like, bro, you don't need a 401k. You
yeah,
need to put everything in
yeah,
Bitcoin.
exactly.
If you
And
get
then
your
just
ass up and locked up, it's waiting for you. You
yep.
know?
Yeah, because people think like, oh, you're gonna be a full-time NBA watcher and then go party and hit the bars at
Yeah.
night and then go on 30 dates with girls and then think you're gonna wake up and kill the market. Bro, put your money in Bitcoin and go enjoy your
Yeah.
life, you know?
But like you said, if you have those skills and you're
Yeah,
following those coins and you're putting in that
yeah.
work, that because you know how much work I put in.
Oh yeah,
Shit,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got two full-time analysts helping me now. That's all we do. We watch 200 assets a day. It's 10 hours, 12 hours every day. But I like that
Yeah,
shit,
and
you
the way
know.
I see it is you're mining fiat. Like
Right.
trade,
That's
get you
it.
some money.
That's it.
Trade, get you some money, man.
That's
That's more
it.
money for Bitcoin.
I'm trying to
But
get money to buy Bitcoin and houses and shit like
yep,
that. I mean, it's really very few things at the end of the day that I
yep.
want. And I'm having to flip a lot of things to get to it. And you know, you may not have to do it. You know, some like Michael Saylor says, he don't need to mine Bitcoin.
Hmm.
He don't need to do any of that shit. He just needs to make money and buy Bitcoin.
Yep. And then realize how many well, you're on what, like year 22 or 23 of trading?
Mm-hmm.
And when he says year 22 or 23, that means he's probably missed 2 days in the market the entire year at best.
You know
So
that.
his 22 years is every single day, and your 22 years is like sometimes you look at the market when it's hot. So if
Right.
you have to be realistic, because what I realize is people are damn near experts at buying the top and selling the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they can't control their emotions. They're not going to look at them because the number on the screen goes down and then they panic. So if you're not going to be at that level of dedication, you're just distracting yourself.
You really are. You really
Yeah.
are. It's the same thing with like index. That's why index funds work. If you can put your head down and just pile money in it, yeah, in 10, 15 years, you got some money. No shit.
Yep, yep. That's exactly, and that's why the best investors are the dead ones. Like, you just
Right.
you know, because they can't panic sell. Dead people can't panic sell.
It's true, man.
So
It's true.
and the thing is, I want to start drawing a line with people because I realize that a lot of people, because there's a lot of opportunists, right? There's a lot of people that are in my position, your position, where people look to us like, what should I be doing? Blah blah blah, right? Think about all the people who weren't buying Bitcoin when it was low or weren't studying, and then Bitcoin goes high, all of a sudden they're making posts, right? And I'm thinking, I'm like, I want people to start being real with themselves. Like, if you're not going to put in your 10,000 hours, your 10,000 iterations, buy Bitcoin and go enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Get off work and go hang out with your friends. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
go take your kids to the park. Just enjoy your life, and Bitcoin will take care of everything else. But you have to be realistic with yourself. Don't think you're going to be a part-time trader. You know, like, or I even think these with these like have you been paying attention to all the celebrities that are launching the meme coins on Solana? And you're like, okay, so a group of developers get behind a celebrity, they
Yeah.
issue a token, everyone buys it, they sell out of it instantly, right? And I'm like, you don't realize that the celebrity might seem like they're a dumb person, they don't know anything about crypto, but those developers by their sides are a million times smarter than you. And they know that your greed to get rich tomorrow is going to lead you to buy Scottie Pippen's coin, and then they're gonna dump on your ass, and you're like, you're trying to swim in a world that has sharks. Somebody can issue a new token and everyone's talking about it, and then they could just dip and disappear one day and you'll never realize it. You aren't smart. Some people have been playing on the internet since they were 6, and
Mhm.
now they're 28. They're professionals. They can surf the internet and develop coins as well as we can walk, you
Right.
know.
Right.
And you're like, you're not smart enough, you're not going to put in enough time to go figure this out.
You don't have an
Stop lying to
edge. There's
yourself.
no edge there.
Yeah,
That's
there's
right.
no. You're right. You're
There's
right.
no edge. You got to play games where you can clearly explain your edge. You know,
Yep.
when I trade, I get it. There's people that make money trading other ways. I just know what I'm doing. I have an edge and I make money every day. You
Yeah,
know,
and it's a beautiful thing.
it's a beautiful thing, right? And
Yeah.
then I try to buy lots of Bitcoin and real estate with it. You know, I,
What
I do all
what
this shit
what
to buy two things.
what was it about like Bitcoin? Because I remember back in the days where you're like, fuck
Yeah.
no. What was it that made it like, okay, I'm tripping?
That strategy of no, yep, straight line,
Yep. Hmm.
that keeps me safe.
Yep. You're right.
So most things you show me, I can't get wooed in. I can't read a Reddit article and YOLO into something. It doesn't work like that for me.
You know what?
It doesn't work like
I was
that.
I was gonna say that about XRP because people are posting this news story that says XRP is gonna put 9 trillion. No, BlackRock is gonna put $9 trillion in the XRP, right?
I don't even
And I'm
have
like,
that trillion.
I'm like,
Nine
they
trillion.
manage $9 or $10 trillion in total. Like, and you could just
They're putting
go,
it all into one coin.
yeah, like BlackRock,
Right.
assets under management. And I'm like, you're not deep enough in this game to even understand what they do, how many assets under management they have, how they have
Yeah.
to diversify it. You don't even know who the CEO is. You're just taking a news article and you're like, you're free money, your exit liquidity.
Yeah. So imagine that. They sell 9 trillion of assets to raise the money
Yeah.
to pay
Yeah,
Rock the mortgage, man.
yeah, bro, it's insane. It's in this art, and I see this article posted by so many people, and I'm like, you guys don't realize that they barely manage nine. That's not their money; they're managing on behalf of clients. You know,
Yeah.
like they can't just up and dump all of it onto everybody. You don't even understand how the game works. You
Oh,
know,
the
and
market cap on coins are like, oh, this is gonna be Bitcoin. I'm like, bro, there's a billion
yeah,
of them. It
yeah.
can't be Bitcoin mathematically.
For hey, you're right. And this, like how you were saying that you have to stay like this. This is how I feel about like telling people about crypto. You know, like I might talk to my friends about it, right? I'm like, I'm not putting my money there. We can talk about it. I can hear about their project, but I don't care. I'm not putting my money there. It's
Right,
Bitcoin
right.
only. And for the people who are following me, like Bitcoin only, because when it goes to where I think it's going, you're gonna be like, man, I'm glad that I avoided this company collapsing. Avoided this person being a scammer. You don't know if that crypto developer is a scammer. You don't know, what he did in his past life. He could be some random dude in India just trying to get rich. You don't
Yeah.
know. There's no point of trusting nobody with your family's wealth.
There really isn't, man. And unless you got it, like you said at the beginning, you got to be real with yourself. Do you actually have some skill?
Yeah.
I get this with people trading options or trading this, and I'm like, okay, I'm not against that. What I'm against is you actually don't know what you're doing. That's what
Hmm.
I'm against. I want
Yeah.
you to go learn and then come
Yeah.
back. And
Yeah. You can't explain every single Greek to me in plain English, and you're gonna be some.
right,
Yeah,
right,
like
it
you're
needs to
not a
be
nerd
plain
about this
language.
shit.
Right, you got to be annoying about it. Like everybody's like, dude,
Yeah.
stop with the options talk.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and anything you do, I mean, and every great trader I've met, I know you've met a bunch, or if they're great at gambling or great, they're
Yeah.
weird, man. Like,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think
Yep.
Michael came to see me, and he's like that I was nonstop looking at charts. I wasn't even. It's just he had a couple minutes before my mind wandered over to where's the price of
Yep.
Bitcoin.
Yep. That's exactly. I used to make posts like that. Like it'd be like 3 in the morning. I'm like, yeah, here I am looking at charts. I'm richer than you. You won't look at a chart,
Right,
but
I remember
somehow you
those.
think you're gonna win. You're like, this is real. You be obsessed or just stop.
Yeah, Grant Cardone has a book called "Be," uh, what is it called? Be sold or be average, or sell or be sold, or something
Yeah.
like that. In other words, yeah, you got to be sold
Yep.
out yourself. I mean, you have to.
Yep. And I know how much work you put in because when I was trading alongside with you, I'm like, there would be times where I would just be out enjoying my little life, and then I watch your story and you're working on a house or you're
Yeah,
trading, and I'm like, I
yeah,
gotta be real with myself. Like, if I want to get to this level, like, am
right.
I gonna, like every day you were like fixing up one of your rentals or you're looking at charts, and I'm like, and it's crazy because the moment where I ask myself, am I gonna work as hard as him? And when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna work every day. If Joe's not gonna miss a day, I'm gonna miss it, and
Right.
then I just see my wealth go like this.
That's all that happens. I mean, the average guy, let's say you take 2 days a week off, hey, you deserve it. You worked hard. But do that
Yeah.
52 times, bro. That's 100 and something
Mm-hmm.
days of no. And
Ain't
then you're turning on the electricity, you're eating, you're driving, you're just
yeah,
spend with no money coming in.
yeah, and it's like it makes you think. It makes you. I always think about like professional athletes too. Like these guys gave up their childhood. You know what I mean? Like to
Yeah.
to train every day, and then also it makes you think like when Kobe Bryant's at the free throw line and the whole world is booing him, he's gonna make the free throw because he trains all the time.
Right.
Right. So when Bitcoin's getting cooked and I'm like, I'm putting all my money in, you know what I mean? Like if I have some liquid money, I'm putting it in. It's because I read all these books and I understand what's going on. It's not because I don't care about what y'all are saying. You know what I mean? Like I don't care about what the crowd says. I don't care about what you say, what crypto is going to the moon. Like, bro, I did my work. I'm gonna make a move based on the work that I know. And therefore everyone else's opinion can't sway me, you know?
Yeah. Same with day trading or anything. You have to master the art and get really good at it. And the people that work with me now, they have. I mean, they got a day trade. They got a paper trade for 6 months. 6 fucking months every
How many
day.
people make it
You get no
through that?
money. There's been two.
Two people.
Right.
It,
But you know how much better a trader
oh yeah.
you are at the end of
Yeah,
it?
it's crazy. It's crazy too because I think that if you go through, everyone's gonna quit, obviously. But those two people, I think you're like, I have enough skills to click a few buttons and make money. It makes me feel like the world's unfair. All I gotta do is
It's
press these
unfair.
buttons.
It is
But
unfair.
knowing which buttons to press is gonna be a whole journey on its own.
Yeah. I think I posted the other day, it was like a $42,000 weekend. I got 900 a month to go to Iraq. Come on, bro.
Insane,
That ain't
insane.
fair. That ain't
All this
fair.
gear on, all this everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could die, and otherwise, I'm just sitting in the house behind a laptop, and you make 42 grand. It's like, come on, man. That
You know when you go downtown somewhere, you go anywhere, and you pay to park, and you're like, the owners of this guy is probably in
that
Monaco
is,
on some yacht,
man.
collecting so much money, and you're like, hey, they
It's
put
funny
in
you
the
say
work.
that. I tried when I got to New Orleans. I was like, man, I got to get into parking.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy it. They're all owned by one. It's just like straight gangsters. It's never for sale.
It's crazy. And then just throw like some attendant,
That's it.
$15 an hour, write some tickets,
Just
partner up
collecting
with the local
money.
tow company. You're like, this is good money.
Yeah,
But
man.
you start to feel like when you get on the other side of things. So I remember feeling like life was unfair when I was poor, right? Then I start to realize like, nah, it's really just a series of like the decisions of the people who were looking after me. They weren't making the right decisions. And then, then I joined the army and then I'm like starting to learn. And I'm like, oh, because then you would see like some of the other soldiers, they need money, blah, blah. And you're like, so you don't think when you went to the bar 10 days before payday and then spend your money, that has something to do with you not having money right now? And you just start seeing it as really black and white. Like, do you want it or not? You know what I mean? Like, you gonna spend
Yeah,
your money right now or not? And then you start to see it on the other side, like, yeah, it kind of isn't fair, but that works in your favor. Like life isn't fair, but it works in my favor
yeah.
now.
I will tell you this though. You're one of the few people I've been in their house and in their kitchen. Their computer's up because they're putting on Bitcoin trades in the kitchen, like there's a computer on on the thing.
Yeah.
My house is like that too. A lot of guys' houses I go in, I didn't know they traded.
Yeah, yeah. You're like
I don't
you're like
see
it's
any
like some
evidence of
secret
it.
hobby.
Yeah, you come in by, there's whiteboards on the wall.
Yep.
There's fucking like we trade.
Look, hold on, let me show you.
Yeah, I went to Chris's house and I knew he was trading. And then you look over and you're like, okay.
So look, this is the Vegas house. This is what me and my brother do. We just spend our time cooking up. So we
Yep.
got some ticker symbols.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is we are all trading. We had some gambling over here. My brother owns a candle company, and then we're like doing same thing. His candles, like our bets. We're like everything. We put everything into this.
Yeah.
And we have our
People ask
board.
me after I visited you, it was like, hey man, what's Chris like? I'm like, bro, it's just like you think.
Yeah.
Just like it is in my house. He wakes up, we're making money. I wake up, I'm doing my boards, he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're about the business, man.
And you know what? And I made it a point to show you my like Bitcoin account too, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I want you to see.
I was glad you did because people come to me, I start showing them properties.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, I'm not playing about this shit,
Right.
And
Yeah.
and then another thing, I know in the age of social media, and I know I play into it with the Lamborghinis and
Sure.
the Rolexes, and I'm like, because it draws attention,
But
and
you're not
like,
leasing them.
yeah, and I'm like, I'm really serious about finances. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, it's not, like when the guys invite me to go out, bro, I'm at home listening to podcasts or reading, or you know what I mean? I'm
Right.
very serious about this shit. And
Yeah, the
and I
guys
want
that are
people to
on the
know.
stage a lot, trying to get that attention a lot, they must not have a lot of time
Yeah,
to trade.
yeah. I always think that. I always think like,
Me
damn,
too, man.
bro. Yeah.
Yeah, he does this one little bitty thing that doesn't take very long. It's like,
Uh-huh.
man, get out of here, man.
Yeah. that's how I was telling my brother. I'm like, there's some people who are good at their skill, and then there's some people who are good at marketing, right?
Marketing.
So now
Yes.
because of the internet, there's two different games going on. There's the skill, and then there's the marketing of it. So
You got on to
the,
me when you first met me. You're like, bro, you got to get on this. You got to market
you're
this shit. You're
right.
not doing it right.
You're right, and that's what I've seen early on. I'm like, you're very good at your skill,
Yeah.
but now you have to realize you're just playing this other game now. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you might have to dangle a watch in front of someone's face, or they're gonna be like, oh, he's just talking, or he doesn't understand. You know,
Yeah.
so there's the game of marketing, there's the game of the
And
actual
what did I
skill.
tell you? I'm trying to be a trader.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bro,
Yeah.
like you could sell so many books, you could do all this stuff, and it's a net positive because you would help more people. You know.
Right. You finally got me to think more and more on that, honestly. And I was like, you know what? He's right. If I help more people, they help me. We all get there where we're going faster.
It's crazy how it works, and it's crazy how you're actually taught to think the opposite. You know, you think
Hmm.
the people with money are like the assholes and blah blah blah. You're like, who do you think's giving you the jobs? You know, or who's giving you the Christmas bonuses and stuff like that. But yeah, the more people like think about this, you helped me, so anybody who I've helped
Right.
is like somebody you helped as well, and then
Right.
when you help, and then if you help me and I help somebody, and then they help their sister or they help their brother, and you're like, we kind of rise all as one.
It's that butterfly
Or you can sit
effect.
and be like, oh, that guy thinks of this, and you're like, nah, bro, we can all get wealthier together, you know?
Dude, I got the other day, I was in New Orleans, and your phones will put shit in front of you if you're around an influencer. Like you'll start coming up on their phone, man.
Uh huh.
So this dude's like, "Oh man, I saw you." So that local's starting to, see what I don't tell them off the
Yeah.
bat.
Uh
And then they was like, "Oh man, I didn't know you were a grifter." And I'm like,
huh.
"Grifter? What the fuck you talking about?"
Disrespectful to all the time you put
Yeah, and
in.
I was like, "Bro, I've been doing the same thing. I'm showing on you for 20-something years."
Yep. Hmm.
I was like, "Yeah," and I get why they say that though, because there are a lot of guys that I watch, and I'm just like, "This guy is not real,"
Yeah, I
you
know.
know.
I know. I know because everyone who started posting about Bitcoin, I'm like, bro, we were in the trenches a few months ago. Like
Well,
people
yeah,
called
where
us
were you?
crazy, and
Yeah,
I didn't see nobody posting nothing.
yeah, man. That
Or
there's a
even
lot of it.
or even they can't like explain how something works. You're like, well, buy this coin. Why? Well, because it's gonna go up. Why? That's
I
the
was
end of
on with
that.
a very, in my opinion, famous YouTuber, 5, 10 times more followers than
Who
me,
would?
and I don't want to say his name and start the
Oh,
war over again, but I was on as a guest, and he was one of them, and he's very looked at as and he goes, well, the main reason I don't like Bitcoin is it's so expensive. And I was
yeah,
like, what the hell does that mean, bro? And he
yeah,
goes, well, the price is like, 30 whatever thousand it was. I go, that don't mean nothing, man. Like
yeah.
it's
You
by
have
of
no
course
idea.
I realized right then he did not even understand it.
Just good at marketing. That's why you can grow
Yeah.
because but you don't actually understand something.
I lost my shit on him too. And then they were like, it was turned into like an argument. And then, I had to apologize to the guy that invited me on.
Yeah, that's I know there's this billionaire guy Jason who keeps trolling Michael Saylor, and and Michael Saylor had posted, he's like, all these companies, he posted a list of companies that are issuing equity to buy Bitcoin, right? And then the guy Jason, he goes, oh, quick, buy some debt and then or take on debt just so you can buy more Bitcoin, blah blah blah, right? And I'm like, damn, it clearly says like equity, right? Like not debt. And I'm like, is this a billionaire who's casually confusing
Right.
issuing bonds versus issuing equities? And I'm like, or is he like, is he confusing it accidentally or does he not know? And then you start realizing, like, bro, these people aren't as smart as you think they are, man. Fuck everybody. I don't think none of these people know what's going on.
Yeah. Sometimes they just got lucky at one thing. Just because you can
Yeah.
play basketball or you
Yeah.
can play poker or you can build a house doesn't mean you know about finances.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But people leverage that. That's and people leverage that to like Dwayne the Rock Johnson has a hair
Oh,
product. He has a
yeah.
hair product in Target, and you're like, how do people go for this? You know, you're like, this guy doesn't have any hair.
You know
But
damn well he's spending $500 on a haircut.
yeah,
you know,
it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But yeah, but I start to realize like the world is kind of shaped and built by people who are experts at what they do. Like
yeah.
experts, like they're nerds about it. Like they can tell you the ins and outs of it, you know? And I was watching this guy on YouTube. He sold a dagger for like $25,000 So then he's like, he makes this 30-minute video of him making the dagger, and it was like he starts with a block of iron, then he flew to Arizona to get
Oh
like
shit.
this block of stone, and then he turned the stone into a handle, and then he like engraved it, and then laser cut it. And I'm like, well, if you think about it, this is like 7 different skills in one,
Right.
and he's mastered them all. And then the $24,000 that he received when he sold the dagger is a receipt for all the shit he knows.
Yeah.
And you're like, this
Yeah.
dude's an expert in all these different fields. And then he sold another sword for like 65,000. And you're like, when you make the money, that's just a receipt for everything you went through. You
Yeah.
know, like the money you get is just like saying the world saying like thank you for the value you provided. But you're like, this dude was learning these skills and playing with these machines when he was 15 years old. You know,
Yeah.
like now 15 years later, he's an expert, and I think that's pretty cool.
It is. My plumber told me once when I first started buying rentals that they were like my age. Most of the dudes running the construction companies, and they had houses, and they were kind of laugh at me, you know. And he gave me a bill. He was in there like 20 minutes. Hands me a bill for like 480,
Yeah.
and I'm like, damn, bro, like this is 20 years
Yep.
ago.
Yep.
And he goes, oh no, that's not for that. That's for 30 years of plumbing.
The whole time of learning. Yeah, you know what? That's what I kind of say about like we have the normal standard that normal society everybody lives in, and then you have like the Bitcoin standard. And what I was saying, what I'm thinking is like you're better off just going to learn a trade and then stashing your money in assets, and that's it. Like everything else is kind of like they're toying with you. They're paying $200,000 to go to college. Like, bro, go be a plumber. Like, what are we talking about? You know, like go be an electrician, and then just store your money here. Like, bro, go work your way up at Amazon or something. Like,
Yeah.
because what you don't realize is you think you're getting ahead, but really they're weighing you down with debt, and that debt has interest attached to it. So every time you make your little payment on your student loan, or you make your little payment on this, or make your payment on that, the interest hits the debt and it weighs you down a little bit more. And you would
Oh,
be better off making less money in the short term, no debt, and
oh,
then letting your assets
oh,
compound. But if you don't understand math, you're not going to understand what I just said.
yeah. You know, what I referred to in my first book there was getting your buckets right.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Same. Yeah.
if you
Exactly.
just have no debt, what you have left
Yeah.
is called money.
Oh, the one of the best things I ever learned from you. Money not going out is the same as money coming in.
Right.
I want you to explain that to them. This is what like probably one of the coldest things you've ever said.
Yeah. I mean, if you, and obviously there's a point of diminishing returns in the
Hmm.
sense that you can cut everything down so tight that, you know, that's as tight as it goes. But your first pay raise, your first raise is just getting your shit
Hmm.
right. Like you're the CEO of you. So if you have $500 that you cut off or get out of that debt, you now got $500 you didn't think. That's the same as going out here and making
Yep.
500.
Yep. Paying 500 on the
Yeah.
debt and staying with your whatever regular income, or not having the debt is
Right.
the same as going out and making extra
Right.
money. Like just don't have the debt.
And
Don't buy the stupid shit. You wouldn't
and
need
it's
to make as much.
and it's actually a bigger swing because you had 1,000 going out, right, from zero, but now you have 1,000 going this way,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's a big, like, so. And I'll tell a guy, like, let's say one guy owes 100,000 and one guy has 100,000.
Yeah.
The
They're worlds
difference,
apart, actually.
the
Yeah.
difference is
They're
worlds.
worlds apart. They're not $100,000 apart.
No, they're not
Yeah.
100,000 apart. It's
Yeah.
astronomical.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. That man, I appreciated that saying a lot. Money not going out is the same as money coming in. Another thing too that I would tell. So for you guys here, let me put your Instagram right here. So for you guys who don't follow Gerald,
oh,
Full
I
Auto
appreciate
11.
that, man.
So another thing too is like I would study everything you ever did. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you I remember you had a podcast, The Science of Getting Rich in 2019. Every single episode I've watched more than 5 times. You would start off banging the quarters. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I would be in, yes, yes, yes. It starts off with banging the quarter. I bet you I don't know about Gerald banging those damn quarters. Were they quarters?
What was I was banging? It wasn't quarters. What
It was
was it?
something, you were banging something. I'm like, this dude
Yeah.
banging his quarter.
Oh, I forget what it was I was banging. It was on my desk though.
Yeah, and you would bang something and then it would start
Yeah.
off like yes, yes, yes. And I would like go to the gym and I would just listen. And then like I would pick my top like 15 episodes, and I would re-listen and re-listen and
Right.
re-listen. I'm like, man, what is this guy saying? I remember in 2019, Boeing had a crash, and then you were talking about how this is opportunity. They have insurance for these types of things. They'll
Yeah.
recover, blah, blah, blah. You're putting your money in Boeing. And I had to watch it play out a few times,
Yeah.
right? I had to watch the market crash, everyone on the news say one thing, and
Yeah.
then it recover, and you'd be like, that was all a distraction.
All the distraction. The regional banks here.
Yeah.
They crash.
always,
I'm like, do you guys think every little regional bank in America is going up?
yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you're right. Everybody on the news is fucking wrong, because if they were right, they probably wouldn't work at the, you
They
wouldn't be
wouldn't
a
have
news
Trump.
anchor.
Right.
Yeah. So what's crazy is in August of 2019, that's when Tesla was on the brink of going bankrupt. So I started putting my money in Tesla, and I posted. I remember I'm like following the money flow, and I'm like, all right, this is like a stage one here. It was getting cooked. If you go now, they have like their splits or whatever. But if you go look then, it was like buying Tesla at $17,
Right.
and I put $72. I mean $72,000 in, and I'm posting it every time. Like, hey, this is my public play. Tesla will recover. We'll be all right. And then I end up making like nearly six figures, nearly seven figures off of this. And I'm like, this is insane. Like
That
the
was your
whole
first
world,
big score.
that was my
Using money.
first big one. And I'm like, yo, this is actually insane to see that like the news is kind of like they kind of have an incentive to down talk everything while everybody else loads up
Right.
on it. If I owned a news anchor and I had some money in the market, I'd be like, hey, you guys run this bad story real quick,
I'd be
because I need to
running
buy
the
this.
data somehow with some programmers in the
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? Okay, you know how like sports betting is this big thing now, right?
Right.
And ESPN has like their official partners. So now what they do on ESPN is they'll show you some ridiculous stat to lead you one way, right? So they'll say, oh, this team has never lost at home in a snow game, right? And then everybody's like, well, I'm going to bet on them. And then boom, they end up losing. And you're like, you don't think that was a coincidence that they flashed that in front of your face, you know?
They
You
just
don't
picked
think
that
they
one
put that
stat.
there for no, like, come on now. Or like you would say, come on, man. Like, it's
Come on, man.
crazy.
Yeah. They just had martial law in Korea. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
South Korea. Okay.
Yeah.
There are American military bases there. Ain't no shit fixing to kick off in South
Yeah,
Korea.
like nothing crazy, nothing too crazy
Right.
is gonna happen.
And then I watched their protests, and it looked like a concert
Yeah,
here in America.
yeah.
Like,
I seen one guy going crazy.
Yeah.
You're like, this is it.
Cops showed up, and they're like, "Anybody need water?"
Yeah,
Like, it's different than over here. So I started buying the triple leveraged Korean index. You know, I just wait for the bottom, wait for the setup,
Yeah.
get back in the little box. I mean, just watch the news, be ready to do the opposite of what they're saying.
It's fear and greed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fear and greed. And what will happen is people are gonna doubt you, and then eventually it recovers, and life goes on as normal, because it always does. And then people are gonna be like, oh shit, I
And if
could
you
have
have a
got.
strategy, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is one of those things where you just buy something every day.
Yeah.
It's like a house. You can just buy a house any day. You buy a Rolex any day. These are just quality things. But you can also track it. And when you see setups, and you see
You
these
take them.
repeating patterns,
Yep.
that's when you
Yep.
go big. You know,
Yep.
that's when you borrow money. That's when you do that kind of shit. So
That's
instead of
when-
borrowing money, going on a stupid vacation, borrow
Yeah,
money.
isn't
to
that
buy Bitcoin.
crazy? People can figure out their money for like, oh, like people like, oh, you're buying Bitcoin. Well, where do I get the money from? Same place you get the money to go on vacation. Same exact
Right.
place.
Stop
Same.
eating.
You're going to have to sacrifice some. That's another thing too. Is like, I mean, there is no reward without sacrifices. And everybody that you think is cool and everybody you admire, ask them about their sacrifices. You know, like people are gonna like tell you about what they sacrifice, and they'll be more interested in talking to you then. You know, like people don't just pop up with nice cars and nice houses and nice watches and all this stuff. Like, bro, people make sacrifices, and if you aren't willing to make the sacrifice, you really don't want that thing.
Yeah. Most people, what they want, they'll say is time to themselves, time at the beach, time to enjoy. And I'm like, yeah, because everyone you look up to, that's what they said.
Yeah.
Nobody said that.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King didn't say that. What's his name? Gandhi didn't say that.
Yeah. Nobody was
Hitler
like,
didn't say
yeah.
that. Michael
Once I
Taylor
give this,
didn't say
once
that.
I give this speech, I'm going to the beach for 4 months.
Nobody says
You'll be
that.
at
But
the beach looking at charts. You'll
Yeah,
be at the beach here.
I have a
Yeah.
beach house. You know
Yeah.
what I do there? I look around. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. I know.
2 or 3 days there, I'm done.
You know what's crazy? It's about like actually being intrigued by something. You know,
Right.
where your mind can't stop thinking about it. Cause
Right.
then you're like, who cares if I'm at the beach? I don't care if I was at the beach or in an airplane right now. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm gonna be
I'd be in
doing.
paradise and I'm checking the chart, man.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is when your mind is intrigued and you're trying to figure out a puzzle, the reward for figuring out the puzzle is you get a little rich, but it's like the concept of figuring out the puzzle. That's the whole chase. You
That's
know,
it.
like if you just skip to the end and you ended up with the reward and you're like you didn't crack the
Yeah.
puzzle, that's not the reward. You know, it's like buying Bitcoin at the low and then it goes to 100K and you're like, all right, cool. I did make a lot of money. But the thing is, I'm sitting here telling you guys, this is how the system works. This is how it's flawed. I see through the bullshit. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. And then when it plays out, you're like, it was the puzzle. You
It's a
know,
puzzle. And you
this
get a
is why I
lot
say
more
like
out of
nerd
helping.
out.
You probably help thousands
I
that
hope
make.
so.
I
I
mean,
hope so.
I had a guy not 3 weeks ago flew to New Orleans, wanted to say hi, and I get this often. Cool, come on in. Especially if they're, if they trade with me, they can come anytime they want. You'd be shocked how many people don't take advantage of that.
Yeah, I know.
If I could meet me and I'm 25, I wouldn't leave my
Yeah.
house.
Yeah. Luck. That's why I'm even grateful that I found you because I'm like, I think what it was about finding you is you challenged my idea of what I thought it meant to be wealthy. You know, because what happens is someone says like, oh, they have $2 million. You think they're like selling insurance or like working in a bank.
Yeah,
And you're like, man, like I built this fucking everything myself. You know, like I
myself
wake
from
up, I
home. Yeah,
work, I was in the
yeah,
army. I'm like, that's like my idea of what I wanted to be, and then I see you, and I'm like, this is it right here. Like this dude's a self-made millionaire, like a real
no
one, you know?
employees. If I have employees, they're partners. They're partners making
Hmm.
money with me. They're not employed. If they don't want to make much, don't get up and grind.
Yep.
You know.
And do you remember I sent you an email, and I'm like, I got $200,000 in
Oh,
cash, like, and I'm trying to
you
grow
got
it, you
two.
know? And I'm like,
I think I told you dogs to the down, man.
yeah, and yeah, you're right. And I study everything that you did. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
glad I found you, you know. But if I would have just found you and be like, oh yeah, this guy has a nice necklace on, that's cool. Let me keep moving. Like, no, bro, this is the vessel to get to where I want to go. You know?
Yeah, and those were stepping stones for you. I try to tell people it's like an onion. It's just layers to it. You
Yep.
can't just
Hmm.
you can't so especially people who come in and trade with me now, and it's like I'm doing 5 different strategies.
Yeah.
It's multi millions in the market and in real estate. Bro, this is 24 years of this.
Yeah, that's a lot of knowledge. So you can kind of like move through the market
Right.
fluidly, and
Right.
but somebody needs to stay here, you know.
When you're new, you got to pick something. You got to
Mhm.
get on it, and you got to master it,
And
and then
you
you
have to
add
master it. Yeah.
and you add pieces. And you can't just do all of the things. You can't just say I want to be Chris tomorrow.
Yeah.
It don't work like
It's
that,
not gonna happen. Somebody says I now make $20,000 a month in dividends because of
dude.
you. Damn,
The
great
guy I
job,
was saying who flew out, his
great
three
job.
years ago, his net worth was like
Uh-huh.
180, right?
Uh-huh.
He's got a house, a job, he's blowing it on ski doos and dumb shit. So I get him on the path. He flies out 2 weeks ago, just wants to personally look at me and say that he went over 1 million. He wanted to thank me.
Damn, respect,
And he's an
respect.
older guy.
Yeah,
This was a change for
yeah,
him that is
yeah,
if you're young, that's cool. But if you were worried about retirement
yeah,
and now you got a million and you're still working, you're making the most money of your life, you got 1 million in the market and you got no debt. Come on, that guy's gonna
yeah.
retire nicely.
The cool thing about that story you just told is like he's older. Like
He's older.
I
We got
don't.
60-year-olds that
Yeah, I don't know why people think that learning is a childhood concept.
no, there's people in my group who went from a couple hundred grand because by 60,
Yeah,
you could easily have it in a couple houses, and now they have excess of 1 million. It's been 3 years from 60 to
yeah,
63.
yeah,
What happens from
crazy.
66? They have 4 million
Yeah,
probably.
and it compounds. You're like, sometimes when I watch lectures on YouTube, and it's the people are like 60 plus years old giving a lecture. I'm like, this is exactly how I want to be. You know, like still teaching, still challenging my mind, like still pushing. Or you know what? I say this on Twitter too. That Warren Buffett's like 92 years old. He's making strategies for his companies for the next 30 years.
Oh,
Like
I
this
got
dude.
guys buying it now because they're worried they're going to retire and like it's like, bro, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you're like, man. And then if you have, children and stuff, it makes it easier because you're like, shit, if I die, then my kids get
Right.
it, like I'm gonna pass this off to somebody, like, or even the knowledge compounds, And when people run into me, they always like, are intrigued by the things I have, but it's never about what I know.
Yeah.
Or if I tell somebody like, hey, read this book, and then the next time I see them, like, what you think about that book? Oh no, I didn't read it. Like, you're too busy to get rich. You're too busy, bro. And there's a guy I play basketball with, DJ. DJ, if you're watching this, shout out to you. There's this guy I play basketball with. He just kept asking me things, and then I would give him a book, he would read it. I'd give him another book, he would read it. He was into Toro and he was into Toro and Lyft and stuff like that. He's like, hey, bro, I think I want to sell 3 of my cars and buy Bitcoin.
Nice.
And I think Bitcoin is maybe 30, 40,000. And
Nice.
he got himself a few Bitcoin. And now he's like, bro, I'm like, and then when other people who play basketball with us ask us about this, he's like, read the books he's telling you to read. So now
Right.
you don't have to always wait till I come into the gym to ask me, because you're gonna follow your own little maze based on what you learn. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
We have
man, it's
one lady, her average Bitcoin price, I think it's 26,000, 24,000. She's
nice.
on 3 or 4 at that price. And so, that's big money due to an
Yeah,
average person
yeah,
to go
it
from
is.
that to now 100 each. You got 3 or 4 of them. I mean, that's almost half a million in one thing.
Think about when this thing gets to $1 million, and the people are like, I listened to some dude say buy it at 20 grand. Listen to buy it
Yeah.
at 60 grand, even at 100 grand. You're like, I exchanged $100,000 for $1 million 5 years later, 10 years later, whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, you're just buying money from the future, and the reason why the money's going to get there is because this thing solves a problem that everybody has.
And as things go exponentially higher, they're exponentially more popular.
Yep. Yep.
And if and we tend to think of like Apple computers just in America, and
Yeah,
it's
and it's
on
like
this exchange.
everywhere.
Yeah, and over there in Korea, it's on a different exchange. But Bitcoin is on one exchange,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
blockchain.
And
It's just
yep.
one.
And it's crazy to think, because like the guy in Saudi Arabia who wants to store his money in Bitcoin is going to push our prices up as well. The guy in Korea who wants to,
What if they all do? What if
yeah,
every patron?
exactly. And you're like, or the guy like the wealthy family in bumfuck nowhere Africa can't buy real estate in Africa, or doesn't want to buy real
Right.
estate in Africa. They're all going to find this thing, and everybody who finds it, and every corporation that finds it, every sovereign fund that finds it, is going to lift the little guys up. Imagine those guys who are buying for $100, $250, and they're like, man, these guys have hundreds of millions of dollars because they sat down and read something or understood something before everyone else.
Amazing. Yeah, man. That's my thesis is there are a lot of products in the world that everyone in the world wants.
Mm-hmm.
Water, soda,
Yep.
a
Access to
blanket.
the internet. Yeah.
We can go
Yeah.
on with this giant list,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone wants at least one of them. Why not Bitcoin?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, like if everybody wants, like, let's say like a computer, they'll just make more computers. So then you don't really expect the value of computers to skyrocket. But you're like, okay, now if everybody wants some, so imagine if everybody wanted water, but there was only so much water. You could just bet that the value of that water will go up. You'd be like, yeah, I bet the value of this water will be higher next year than it is
And of
today.
course, it rains, and the ocean's full of water. Bitcoin's
Yeah,
not that big,
man.
but we do have this artificial supply, and I think that's an issue a little bit, like Bitto, or there's all these derivatives of Bitcoin now.
Yeah, I
Misty,
think so. And I know the derivative. I don't know too much about this, but I know the derivatives kind of held the price of gold down,
yes, and they will
right?
Bitcoin a little bit, but there's a lot less Bitcoin than there is gold.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So from my understanding, instead of buying the gold itself, you buy something that matches the price or the value of gold, but then they never turn and buy the gold
Right,
itself with that. So therefore the value of gold doesn't actually shoot up, because that money,
right.
instead of going into the actual thing, is going into the derivatives that are being sold that
It's
don't match the
almost
thing.
suck money out of the supply. And
Yeah.
Bitcoin
And you
will
know
still
what?
have
That's
that a little bit with Wall Street coming
yeah.
involved, but it also will spread the
Yeah.
message.
Yep. And I realized that that's probably why a lot of gold bugs probably had a hard time coming over to Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Like they probably fought like this battle for a long
yeah.
time.
Because you think, well, especially Bitcoiners are a little naive to Wall Street, and they're like, well, there's only 21 minutes. I get that, bro.
Yeah,
But
but
now I can buy futures.
yeah,
Now I can buy a double leveraged
yeah,
ETF that doesn't even own the
yeah.
goddamn Bitcoin.
It doesn't own the underlying asset. You
Yeah,
know what? That's why I think that this is kind of why I thought that like 100K was inevitable, because I think we were supposed to go there already.
Yeah,
But when FTX collapsed, you're like, all these people thought they owned Bitcoin.
right.
So if there was supposed to be 200,000 Bitcoin in FTX and they're taking that money and just trading it around and it never touches Bitcoin,
Right.
like the price would have probably kept running, had they actually bought the Bitcoin, but they weren't. So I think as like self custody becomes more popular, then we'll see like, oh, hopefully we'll see a lot less of that.
And
Like, don't just
collateralizing it. If you can collateralize Bitcoin with a local bank,
yeah, yeah. That's what I think
so
Michael Saylor's going to do. I think he's going to be
I
that
wanted
bank.
to open this business
Yeah,
like a pawn shop for local people or whatever, bank of the people. Like you collateralize your Bitcoin with
yeah. And if you make a mistake, there goes your Bitcoin.
brother.
Hey,
Don't
no,
pay me back. I don't care.
yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, imagine that. Like if someone's like, you put up 1 Bitcoin for collateral, I'll give you 1.5 Bitcoin back. If you don't pay it, we take your Bitcoin or whatever. And you're like, of course, because it's going to be in some type of collaborative custody where if you default, I take your Bitcoin, I end up with more Bitcoin. Who cares? Like pay your fucking
And then
bills.
if it goes up and you pay me, we're both
Yeah,
happy. So
exactly. And this is why I think too, like I kind of shy away when people say like when are you supposed to sell, or like well, how am I gonna sell or whatever, because I'm like, we're so early in this
yeah,
thing.
they don't understand.
I would be irresponsible to tell you to sell, or like, yeah, take this, like, no, because you might
Like
have one whole
Manhattan.
bit.
Like
Yeah, like
Manhattan.
you might have a whole Bitcoin, you sell out, and when you buy back in, you're gonna have point 0.4 of a
Yeah.
Bitcoin because the price is gonna run away. The price is running away from me, and I have a little bit of money, and I'm like, fuck, I can't stack as much as I used to.
Right. When Sailor talks about Manhattan, when was a good time to sell Manhattan real estate?
Never,
Never.
yeah,
Right.
never. Everyone who
Never.
sold yesterday will. If you sold anything in Manhattan yesterday, you're gonna
Right.
regret that.
And right now, what is the average price of is 90% a year? Is it averaging
Yeah,
still? Okay,
yeah,
so what
something like that.
okay, so
Yeah,
you don't need yield.
yeah.
I mean if
Yeah, that's another thing too.
you can
Yeah, but it doesn't pay a dividend. Like,
you don't need a dividend when it goes up 90% a year, bro. Like
yeah,
you do something else for money.
I, I think that just kind of understanding basic math kind of like will help people, because like if you think about it, if it averaged 30% a year, your money would double like every 2-3 years. You're
Yeah.
like,
But
we're talking
now
about your net
what's
worth doubling every 2 to 3 years. This is unheard of. This is at 30%.
yeah.
This is a 30% return. You know what I mean? Like your net worth, if you have 40 grand and then you go to 80, and from 80 you go to 160, this will happen fast. Like in 10 years time, like what are 10 doubles, or what are 3 doubles? Like
Yeah.
this is
It's
crazy.
massive.
Yeah, so I think people who are even thinking about selling out, you're like, bro, like if you had to pick between selling out and trying to time the bottom, or just riding it up and down and keep adding, pause, and keep adding to your stack, then like just mustard it. Like the number on the screen goes down, who cares? You get paid from your job, you buy more and just wait it out.
What
Like,
are you
because
gonna buy with it?
exactly.
What are
You
you
know,
gonna
you know what?
buy? What are you gonna buy? A watch? I mean, you gonna buy fucking go on a trip? What are you
yeah.
gonna do?
The only thing that I think is somewhat worth entertaining is a house,
Right.
right?
If it would
Anything
change
less,
your life, if you made enough that it changes your fucking
yeah,
life, it buys your
yeah,
grandma a house,
mm-hmm,
you a house, and mama a house, maybe
yep,
you do it. And then the next day you start buying Bitcoin.
yeah. I'm like the only thing, because a house isn't something that somebody can snap their fingers the next day and make,
Right.
right? Like you go buy a nice watch, they'll have some more on sale. You think
Right.
that was the only watch in the store? You think that was the only store in the world?
Right. I'd rather
You
buy
know?
watch trading.
Yeah, like, yeah, you can get the little stupid shit
Doing
eventually. So I'm
other
like,
things. Yeah.
the only thing even worth it is buying a house, and that's kind of like, I don't know, man. This
Yeah.
thing's gonna grow
As
forever.
a guy, like I have 3 houses for myself right now. And
Yeah,
it's like, man, I want
yeah,
some Bitcoin, man.
yeah. You think about it, huh? Like you probably
Yeah.
give up one of those. I think
Right
about,
now, I would have gave it up at
yeah.
15,000. I would have gave up one. I would have gave up that beach house to buy Bitcoin at 15,000.
I think about it all the time. I'm like,
Yeah, I
did
put
somebody
400
told
grand
me too?
into that fucker cash. If I'd have put 400 grand at 15,000,
Insane, insane. Oh
I
my
could have had
god.
3 beach houses. I could
Yeah,
have bought one for 3 friends.
yeah. You would have had a beach house with a beach house.
Right. We
I think
had
about
a,
this.
yeah,
This
on the
this
East
house cost
Coast.
me $5 million in opportunity costs buying this house instead of buying
Yeah.
Bitcoin. And I'm like, damn. Even if I were renting and spending $100,000 a year on rent, that's $400,000
Right.
less your $5.1 million. You know, like there's no way the math doesn't math. You know.
Yeah. That's why when they asked me that question too, well, when do you get off or when you think, it's like, bro, I don't think you understand what we're
Yeah,
doing. That's not a
yeah,
question you ask. We're gonna do this till we die. Like,
yeah.
I might take it with
It,
me.
it's kind of like you know that Henry Ford quote, like if I asked people what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse. It's like people are driving a car and they're like, so when are we gonna get more horses? And you're like, you don't need a
The
horse anymore,
horse.
bro. Fuck the horse. Like,
Right.
yeah, bro, but when are we gonna get more horses? Like, or like when are we gonna get like a barn? When are we gonna get a barn? Like, you don't need to put your car in a barn. You know, like, bro, you realize, like, I don't know, but
It is, man.
it's a whole paradigm um change, and I'm still adjusting to it, and I realize that the other people are too,
Yeah.
because now I start to see things in the price of Bitcoin instead of seeing the price in the US dollar. So if I see a car, I say, okay, oh, I think you sent me the Ferrari, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like
4
that's
million.
45 Bitcoin. I'll buy it for .1 Bitcoin
Right.
eventually. I see
Right. I
things in the
know it
price of
gets
Bitcoin.
hard to even make those changes now, doesn't it? Because
Yeah,
I love that car, but man, there ain't no way in hell I'd buy that
yeah, you're like, is that worth 45
car.
Bitcoin? Fuck no.
If I had
Like,
45 at 15, I might buy it now.
yeah,
But
it's
but
it's crazy. It's crazy. I think about this too. Like, when am I gonna cash out on my Bitcoin? Like, when I can get the Golden State Warriors for like 50 Bitcoin, then we'll talk. You know?
see, if you get a business that's making a shit ton of money that allows you to buy more Bitcoin from the business exponentially more,
Mm-hmm.
then it begins to make sense. If the move you're doing is if it's just a consumption move,
Yeah. Then it's not. Yeah, it's not worth it.
it's not worth the move. You can just work and do that,
Yeah.
you know.
So someone said Bitcoin's a speculative asset compared to a house. Yeah. So at what point, like, what do you
That
need for it to
guy
do?
don't own many houses though,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
I have a house now where I've had houses where tornadoes hit
Yep.
it. I've had houses where renters trash it. I've had houses where you have major city sewer problems. So it's not. I don't want to. People should not think that housing is risk free or problem
Yeah.
free.
Yeah. That's why I think, like, you just look at your house like the utility value. I need somewhere to live.
Yeah, and then as a renter, it's a business for me.
Yeah.
But don't make the mistake that it's gonna go up 90% a year.
Yep.
That is not happening.
Yep.
Bitcoin has averaged 90% a year for its life.
And this
I
is
forget the exact number. It's pretty high.
your
And I
yeah.
own a lot of houses, but all the reason I buy houses is to get more Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I say that now, like, man, I know you guys see, like, this is what I try to tell the people who are watching. I know you guys see some of the material things I
Yeah.
have, and you think, like, okay, well, I want to get some of those things. I will give all of those up for the Bitcoin that I should have bought instead of buying that thing.
Right.
So when I bought a Lamborghini and it cost me $260,000, that was 10 Bitcoin. Now it's worth
Mm.
2 Bitcoin. The
Yeah.
Lamborghini is a shit
Yes.
coin. I want you.
Yes.
I want y'all to understand the Lamborghini is a
Yeah.
shit coin. I
Right.
bought it for 25 Bitcoin. It's worth 2 Bitcoins. Going down. It's a shit coin.
Yeah.
Even my
This is why when you
extra
see the
houses,
old guys,
everything.
and that comes with a little